Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. Today we're doing a beta read and Concrit for The Great Wicked. We're looking at Unbreakable Bonds. This does have an explicit rating, but I believe we are in the clear for the first chapter, which is what we're looking at. So we should be okay. If we come across anything that shouldn't be said on YouTube, I'll just bleep or be quiet and continue reading on to the next word that is SFW. We'll go with that. We're working today in the Star Wars fandom. We're looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi in an OC. And let's see. I am somewhat in the know on the Star Wars fandom, but it'd be like, and I would know who Obi-Wan is. Like, I watched the original movies and I watched a couple of the ones after it, and then I'm kind of out of it, but I should be able to follow along with Obi-Wan and OC, Anakin, Padme, Yoda. We should be okay. Let's see what happens. So it does say here this is part 2 of this looks like a series maybe, called Unbreakable Bonds. So I'm not sure if me jumping in on part 2 will have this out of context from information from part 1. So we'll see if that becomes an issue. So we'll just dive in and take a look here. Unbreakable Bonds by The Great Wicked. Our summary. In a galaxy where Anakin Skywalker successfully resisted the pull of darkness, fulfilling his destiny as the Chosen One to bring balance to the Force, the Jedi Temple is abuzz with discussions about the traditionally forbidden nature of attachments. As Anakin assumes the role of a Jedi Master, his decision to ensure Palpatine's arrest rather than execution sets the tone for a new era. On the way to an impromptu council meeting where Anakin now holds a seat as a respected master, Obi-Wan Kenobi experiences an unusual sensation. A mysterious connection tugs at him when he encounters a young boy patiently waiting outside the council chambers. Unbeknownst to Obi-Wan, the spotlight is about to shift from Anakin to himself. As the secrets of Obi-Wan's past unravel, the Jedi Council finds itself thrust into action much sooner than anticipated. The delicate balance of the Force, once maintained by Anakin's choices, now hinges on the unforeseen revelations from Obi-Wan's history. The galaxy is on the brink of change, and the consequences of long-held secrets may reshape the destiny of the Jedi and the Force itself. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second. If this entire piece reads as beautifully as this summary, we're in for a serious treat. So let's keep going. Chapter 1. We have more summary. Let's see what happens here. A sudden, secretive High Council meeting is convened, leading Anakin and Obi-Wan to participate. On their way, Anakin's concerns about impending fatherhood resurface, but he finds solace with Obi-Wan's support. As they approach the council chambers, an unexpected encounter with a mysterious young boy intrigues Obi-Wan. Unbeknownst to him, a startling revelation from his past emerges with the Jedi Temple, bringing astonishing news that will reverberate through the Order. Beautiful. This is beautiful. Okay. Unbreakable Bonds. Oh, it looks like we have a cover here. I don't even know how to make these. This is really awesome. I'm loving the graphics. There's a little quote here. It says, "It's all right, Mom. We're safe now. We'll find our way." I wonder if that'll come into play here. Warning, canon divergence and original character content. Please do not translate, copy, or repost without permission. I was asked to do this review, so we're going to carry on. And I'm going to take a deep breath here because I do have some asthma. Sorry about that. Okay, and I wanted to get a good breath because this is really good. Clean reading so far. So I want to make sure I can deliver when I read you this story. Here we go. As the shuttle engines wound down with a soft hum and the ramp descended, the cool artificial air of the planet's capital washed over them. Stepping out onto the platform, the vibrant world of Coruscant was revealed to them in all its bustling, high-tech, and enigmatic glory. It was alive. Speeders zoomed overhead, and the crowds of people, more than the boy had ever seen in his life, went about their daily routines. The air was filled with an amalgam of sounds, all intermingled together, forming the city's pulsing heartbeat. The hum of vehicles, the constant chatter, announcements being read over speakers, droids and their mechanical workings carrying out their tasks. It was hard to decipher what one person was saying unless they were right next to you. I want to pause here and I want to compliment how beautiful this is. And I could read it, continue reading on through, and I don't want to stop too much and take away from it because it kind of deserves to just be read and heard. But I want to point out some really good things here, as this can be good examples as goals for us. So we have subtle and beautifully woven. We're going to go with woven. Descriptors. We have actions. So, and they're very, very beautifully woven. So you've got like a soft hum, you're hearing gears. It's just painting a beautiful setting for you. The ramp descended. You've got emotion, and it's just the way that they're pieced together. This is one of our goals, is to have subtleties woven throughout our sentences that paint the picture and tell the story. And so we have beautiful writing here. The cool artificial air. So, we're just getting a really good setting. We're getting set up here. It's coming out really well. It's done very well. Stepping onto the platform. We have seamless action. So it's beautiful. We're just going to go on. In the 10 years she had been away from the place that had been once been her home, the shadows had grown longer and darker. There was something immediately familiar and comforting, yet she knew many things had changed. She wanted to be completely at ease, but such was the fate of those who walked in the boots of a Jedi. Now I am going to pause here. So when I went back, I thought we were with the boy. All right. So I'm having asthma tonight. I'm so sorry. I thought we were with the boy. So let's revisit this really quick. I don't want to reread too much of it. I'm going to go to where it put me into the headspace of the boy. And it was here. Speeders zoomed overhead, and the crowds of people, more than the boy had ever seen in his life, went about their daily routines. So this tells me that it makes me feel that I'm with the boy. Okay, so now in Star Wars, we have in the opening when they run before the movie actually starts, you have that reel that tells you the backstory, and that's kind of it's kind of in a narrator headspace, okay? Because we don't really know who's speaking. It's just a narrator setting the scene for you, and I kind of feel like we did that up here. I feel like the scene was set for us in the summary, and that's kind of the vision I kind of had while I was reading it. Is like, this is like the opening. We've set the scene, and now we're going to dive into the story. And I'm seeing us set up, still setting up the scene, honestly, this is the beginning of the story. But I kind of thought we were going to be in the headspace of one character. And so we have the boy here. I thought we were with him, but now we're over here in the second paragraph with the girl. So what I want to comment here is, I guess I skip back and forth between points of view in my writing. And I'm assuming that's what we're doing here. It sounds like right here we're in the girl's head. Up here we're in a boy's head. By the way, I do want to point out that we do not know who this boy is, and we do not know who this girl is. So I'm going to assume it's probably Anakin and Padme. I could be completely wrong because it's not been told to us. So one thing we might do is want to make very clear who these characters are by like name, and we probably want to be in the headspace of one character or the other. And if we're going to switch back and forth, my suggestion is to do it more like in chapter. The rule in professional writing, which has been preached to me because I do break this rule when I write fan fiction, I do flip back and forth between characters, particularly in my role play with my writing partners. I have two writing partners. We're a little trio that have been working together for years, and we have an entire saga together. And we do flip back and forth like this. And by the way, this is beautifully done. So if you want to do it, it is still working. It's an observation at this point. But we do this when we write together. Typically, I'll write a segment from my character's point of view, and then whatever other character is in the scene or that she's interacting with, or whoever the character I'm with when I'm doing my part. I write several characters, but I'm going to use a female character, for example. If I'm in her headspace, and then my friend goes, they will do this, and they will be in that other character's headspace, and we will do it as frequently as this. So in fan fiction, it can be a matter of preference, and if it is done, you do want to see it done as beautifully as this. My only suggestion would be to be very clear who these people are, and we'll see what happens in the third paragraph. But if you are to write professionally, this will not fly. I've had a story that I wrote, an original, and I was largely throughout the book, it was a book, and largely throughout the book, I was with one character. I switched to 2 other female points of view. I thought it was strategic. I did it on purpose. But the beta reader I had, who did my beta read in Concrit, did not like it, and she had written and published professionally, and she insisted. She's like, I really hate to do this to you, but you need to take these out and you need to rewrite these parts. And it stumped me. So, I mean, it can be done. I can do it. It wasn't what I wanted. And I can break that rule, but she's telling me from a marketing point of view, they won't like it. So if you do consider writing professionally, go into your work knowing that you need to pick a point of view. And if you do look at different points of view, try not to do it more than every other chapter. And if you do it consistently. So one chapter is with one character and the next chapter is with the other character. And they kind of want to see that back and forth consistently throughout the book. So, those are the hard, I don't know. See, like, I feel like if you're telling the story and it's coming out the way you want it to, that you do you. And I've seen, who's that? There's an author who did like 5 different character points of view throughout the book, and it was the #1 complaint from her readers. I guess we get really immersed into the character that we're on this ride with, and we want to stay in their headspace, and it starts to pull us out of it when we start to look at these other characters' points of view. For the sake of fan fiction, I think that it's fine, and you have done it well. I just want to know who these people are, but we're going to keep going, and that was all just informative dialogue. So we're going to keep going. Despite the excitement and anticipation of returning to the home world of the Jedi Temple, Cressida was unable to ignore the nervous knot in her stomach. Her many memories of a time from within the temple walls, both glorious and difficult, flooded her mind and left her with the dreadful questions. She looked down at the boy who was so enraptured in the world around him. His very presence was a testament to the light that Cressida carried within her, a source of joy and hope that defied the doubts of those who questioned their bond. This day had been coming, and she knew it, for despite the knowledge of what had happened today, or what had to happen today, she was still questioned her place among the ranks of her Jedi brethren. The existence of her son could potentially complicate matters greatly, so much could change today. I'm going to pause for a second because I misread this sentence, and I want to look at it. This day had been coming, and she knew it, for despite the knowledge of what had to happen today, she still questioned her place among the ranks of her Jedi brethren. There we go. It was me. There's nothing wrong with it. It was completely me. I don't know why I fumbled over it. I don't see anything wrong with it. Okay. And so I guess now we are with Cressida and her son. We still do not know her son's name at this point. There's nothing wrong with that. This is lovely. We're going to keep going. She thought of the many times the Jedi Council had granted special permissions for Jedi to have children. There weren't many, but it wasn't unheard of. Still, her own circumstances were vastly different than what had been approved of before. Doubt and worry gnawed at her. "Are you nervous, Mom?" the boy asked, glancing up at her with a piercing gaze that suggested he knew her innermost thoughts before she could even think them. A presence that was commanding to some was serene to him, yet it was his deep connection to his mother through their force bond that alerted him to her troubled soul. "Nervous about being home?" I'm going to pause. So this is interesting. So we're catching this connection between them here, and it's being introduced. Very nice timing. But it makes me want to go back up here to this paragraph where I was complaining that we were in the boy's headspace, and I'm kind of like rethinking that now. I'm like, okay, So we're with Cressida consistently through here. Why did I guess it was this one because we started out with the boy. But if Cressida was observing this, perhaps. Okay, so my question to you, the author, is if we are in Cressida's headspace up here, when I read this sentence right here, I immediately thought, as the reader, that we were with the boy's headspace. But as I read on, I believe we are with Cressida, and I kind of am starting to think we were with Cressida here. So my suggestion would be just to make that very clear. Some subtle little change would probably wrap it up very simply. And it's beautiful. So if we are consistently with Cressida, which it looks like we are, and she was actually telling this, that's my suggestion there. And we're going to keep going. Where was I? Oh, he's nervous. Okay, she's nervous about being home. A quick glance at her, if you happen to notice her at all, would make you ask the question of how long has she been there? Her demeanor was observant and unassuming. She blended seamlessly into the crowds of people around her, suggesting the shadows were as comforting to her as a blanket. The stormy shade of gray in her eyes seemed to hold the weight of it so much like heavy rain clouds before a monsoon. Beside her, the young boy looked up eagerly with the concern of a wise sage and not the eyes of a child, though he was very much a child, a stark contrast to his mother's shadowy nature. His youthful exuberance radiated from him, reflecting his wonder and carefree nature of the world around him as he saw it. Wow, your voice is just beautiful. Like your choice of words, this is like I've got feels. I'm loving your prose. It's fantastic. Okay, back here. So usually I nitpick on using the same word too close. I'm not going to because you wrote it so well. I am just going to point out that I did notice them. But that's something I do as a beta reader. I've trained my brain to look for use of the same word twice in short space. I don't think your regular reader who is just reading to enjoy the piece is going to notice that because you've written it so well. I am just going to note that I observed it as a beta reader, and we're going to move on. A soft smile graced her lips as she met his gaze. No, Solon, I'm not nervous. Just happy to be back. Her voice was warm and soothing. Okay, I might tuck a word was right there. My mouth wants to read was right there. I might, but we're going to keep going. He peered up at her, his sandy hair shifting in the breeze. Are you sure, Mom? You look a little different. He gently prodded, his voice filled with genuine care. Her smile softened further, and she let out a soft chuckle, appreciating his perceptiveness. Maybe I am a little nervous. The Jedi way is not always kind to those who stray from its path. Solon's eyes sparkled with unwavering confidence as he squeezed her hand tighter. It's all right, Mom. We're safe now. We'll find our way. His words brought a sense of peace to Cressida's heart, lightening the weight of her apprehension. She knew he was right, and their bond provided a strength that surpassed any external challenges they might encounter. With renewed determination, she returned her attention to the grandeur of the Jedi temple that stood before them, its towering spires reaching toward the sky. Come, Starlight, she said. Let me show you the temple. As they departed the shuttle, they blended in with the crowd seamlessly, their utilitarian attire giving no clue to their identities. A surge of affection rushed through her as she watched her son take in the city's grandeur. She remembered a time when she too looked at the capital with such awe. She reached out and gently clasped his small hand in hers, a touch of reassurance amidst the newness that surrounded them. His mismatched eyes widened with awe at the sight of towering skyscrapers that seemed to touch the heavens. He'd never seen such structures. His face lit up with excitement, a youthful curiosity shining through. I'm going to pause. So this is lovely. I like how she has, or I don't know, I'm sorry. I like how the author has given us a little reminisce from the mother, remembering her first experience. I like how he puts his hand in hers. I really like this. The subtle little cues and no, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I'm actually just, I've got feels. Okay. With each step, she silently echoed Solon's words, hoping that the council would understand their unique situation and grant their request. And as the temple loomed closer, she whispered to herself, Yes, my dear Solon, everything will be all right. We're finally home. I do believe whenever we have the a name, I think there's supposed to be a comma there, but you probably know better than I do. The steps of Obi-Wan and Anakin making their way through the bustling corridors of the Jedi Temple echoed softly off the walls with each footfall. Their conversation turned from the nature of this last-minute meeting of masters to more personal matters. Anakin's gait held a touch of restlessness, his thoughts consumed by the impending birth of his and Padme's children. Okay, so let's see. It sounds like we are moving on to Anakin's mind here, and we have a nice, beautiful little break right there to make that transition for us. Very well done. And I want to compliment the use of the subtle use of adjectives here. So we have the verb of bustling corridor, and we have soft. Even this adverb here, we have echoed softly, and I still like it. It kind of tells us that it's not your like echo off a mountain or into a valley, but a almost muted sound. So as I'm reaching, and then the use of the word footfall is implies gentleness. So this is like a scuffle of shoes across here, but it's beautifully written. Let's see. I'm liking it. Okay, Anakin's gait held a touch of restlessness. So he's fidgety. He's restless. Here we go. I can't help but feel a bit uneasy, Anakin admitted, his voice laced with vulnerability. It is strange that I'm more comfortable on the battlefield than in this new frontier of fatherhood. Okay, is it strange? He says, is it strange? Oh, I'm sorry, that's funny. Is it strange that I'm more comfortable on the battlefield than in this new frontier of fatherhood? That is a little strange, Anakin. Obi-Wan's blue eyes crinkled with amusement. Really, fatherhood can't be all that scary. His tone shifted from the teasing to a more comforting nature, sensing Anakin's worry. You'll be an exceptional father, just as you've been an exceptional Jedi, most of the time. He punctuated his pep talk with a slight jab, and Anakin appreciated the gesture, but his unease remained. Are you honestly going to tell me you would be more comfortable on Geonosis than in the medical wing with the newborn? Obi-Wan chuckled. With Padme by my side, it wasn't so scary, but this, I feel woefully unprepared. Anakin huffed out a deep and cumbersome breath. Well, it can't be worse than anything you've accomplished so far. Keep your head, be there for Padme, and do your best to fulfill your duties as a Jedi. The Force will be with you in all things, just as it has your whole life. Besides, newborns aren't that hard. They just sleep most of the time. Anakin smirked, his expression tinged with mischief. How about you save the lectures of fatherhood for when you become a father yourself? Very amusing, Anakin. What woman would put up with my penchant for adventure? Memories of Ciri, Satine, and Sarasi briefly flashed through Obi-Wan's mind. Anakin scoffed playfully, knowing full well of the trail of broken hearts Obi-Wan had inadvertently left in his wake. Oh, I'm sure there's someone out there who can handle you, my friend. Obi-Wan shook his head dismissively. The topic of their discussion changed as they continued through their strides. So you really don't know why this meeting has been called? Anakin asked. Obi-Wan shrugged. No, I don't. Why would you think I do? Anakin gave him a look that he'd seen 100 times before. Because you often know more than you say you do, Obi-Wan chuckled. I'm going to pause. We are missing a little bit of punctuation. I'm just going to highlight this little spot right here, and we're going to keep going. Not this time. I'm just as in the dark as you. As they approached the council chambers, Anakin's eagerness led him to stride ahead, leaving Obi-Wan momentarily behind. His gaze was drawn to a young boy sitting alone on a bench, swinging his legs with an air of lightheartedness. The boy didn't quite fit the image of a Padawan or a youngling, lacking the traditional Jedi braid and attire. Curiosity piqued, Obi-Wan motioned for Anakin to proceed without him. He approached the boy with a warm smile, his eyes filled with kindness and intrigue. Hello there. The boy turned his gaze toward Obi-Wan, his eyes sparkling with an innocence that seemed at odds with the Jedi Temple's solemnity. Oh my goodness. Solemnity. Okay, guys, we're gonna... Okay, take that one for whatever you will. Your reader stumbled all over that word, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just could not get my mouth to say it, so we're gonna keep going. Okay. Hello, Master Jedi, he replied, his tone respectful and filled with genuine warmth. Obi-Wan found himself pleasantly surprised by the boy's polite manners and his observance of his Jedi title. A twinkle of recognition flickered in the depths of the Jedi Master's eyes, though he couldn't quite place it. Their encounter felt oddly familiar. Engaged in the conversation with a friendly curiosity, Obi-Wan stood before the boy. "Are you waiting for someone, young one?" I'm going to pause right here. I am not 100% sure, but typically my rule in my head, and I could be wrong, but he's calling him a young one, so I almost think that might be capital because he's addressing him directly. I personally would capitalize it because he's addressing the boy directly. We're going to keep going. The boy nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "Yes, I'm waiting for my mother. She's in a meeting with the Grand Master and the High Council, but I think she might be gone for a while." "Why's that?" "I think she's in trouble." There was a slight slump in his posture that denoted an invisible burden he carried. "Why would your mother be in trouble with the council?" Civilians didn't answer to the council. He couldn't imagine a reason for this. "She's a Jedi, and Jedi aren't allowed to have children." "What's your name, young man?" Obi-Wan's brow furrowed slightly, his mind connecting the dots. The boy's presence and the mention of the council stirred a sense of unease within him. Obi-Wan moved to sit beside him. The boy looked up at Obi-Wan with eager anticipation. "My name is Solon Kyle," he answered. I am not sure if this is supposed to be Kyle, but we're going to go with Kyle. Forgive me if I don't say it right. "My name is Solon Kyle," he answered, his name unfamiliar to the Jedi Master. "What's yours?" "My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi." He held out a hand for Solon to shake, but Solon's eyes widened in awe. Okay, little punctuation right there. Gonna keep rolling. "General Kenobi?" he asked, his voice filled with reverence. Surprised by the recognition, Obi-Wan's curiosity deepened. "Do you know me?" Solon nodded eagerly, his voice filled with admiration as it trembled in disbelief. "General Kenobi?" Obi-Wan answers him with a warm smile as Solon was barely able to contain his surprise. Solon's excitement was palpable as he turned to face Obi-Wan on the bench, his eyes alight with reverence. "Hero of the Clone Wars, you served on Geonosis. You defended Kamino. You defended General Grievous. You led the 212th Attack Battalion." Beautiful. Okay, beautiful. I like your build. I like the use of the exclamation point. Excellent. Okay, right here, I wondered if that was supposed to be past tense because we're working in past tense. So I think we should have had answered him, but we're going to keep going. Obi-Wan chuckles. Okay, so I have not up to this point noticed us flip-flopping in tense. My brain caught it right here. I think I'm catching it again right here. One thing I tend to do, I do flip-flop back and forth in tense, and you can see it in my past works. I even caught myself doing it the other day on one of my original pieces because I got so immersed in the scene that I kind of became my character. And that story is told in first person. You're in third limited, but it just, you get caught up in it, and all of a sudden it's happening in the present to you, and that's how we do this. So I understand how it happens. As I've noticed it here, and I've noticed it here, I'll try to keep an eye out for it going forward. I may have missed it in the paragraphs above. You may screen for that yourself if you so choose. And maybe there was nothing and that's why we didn't notice it till now. So, and this does happen to me. Like I'll get this far into my story and then all of a sudden I'm flip-flopping back and forth in my tense because I'm so caught up in it. So here we go. Obi-Wan chuckled at hearing of his own exploits with such fervor from one so young. "How do you know of me?" I kind of think that might be a period. Saying that because I've kind of been taught, and I could be wrong because I'm not the comma goddess, but I've kind of been taught that if my text is like them speaking with a word, it looks like the word being like said, asked, telling, anything that's actually those specific types of words where they're vocalizing, then you get the comma with it. And if it's just a sentence before it, like this is a sentence, then it would end in a period, and then we have our dialogue, and it's fine. We still know it's Obi-Wan. I am not 100% sure that is correct. That's kind of the rule I'm telling myself in my head as I'm writing these days. In the past, I have got a big old mess, and I always refer to my past pieces and how I have not revised them, so that if you guys want to go back and see me making all of the mistakes I'm talking to you guys of, then you can do that. It's really hard for me to do, and some of my pieces really deserve to be corrected. So I don't know if it'll be like that forever, but for now, they stand how they are. My mother told stories about you. Obi-Wan's brows shot up in surprise. She said you weren't just a skilled warrior, but a wise and compassionate Jedi, and you stood for what was right. That you fought fearlessly and saved countless lives. She holds you in a high regard, and she's told me your stories since I was little. I'm honored to have your mother's high opinion. Obi-Wan felt flattered by the praise and intrigued by the tales Solin's mother had apparently shared. Tell me, Solin, do I know your mother? Again, I'm kind of wondering if that's supposed to be a period, but we're going to keep going. No, I don't think so. The nonchalant response left him Obi-Wan perplexed. Okay. I guess I think that one of the two is, I would say, omit the him and keep going. We're going to read it without the word him in it. The nonchalant response left Obi-Wan perplexed. It was true he had a reputation in the Clone Wars, but it was still a bit odd for one person to speak of his exploits so fervently with no personal connection. It's a long sentence. You may want to tuck a comma in there. If I was doing it, I wanted to read it. It was true he had a reputation in the Clone Wars, comma, but it was still a bit odd for one person to speak of his exploits so fervently with no personal connection. However, I want to note that it did read beautifully in my mind. I tucked the comma there myself. I don't even know if it's correct. I said, I'm not the comma goddess, and I will not, I'm sure a grammar professional will step in and correct me. So that's just what I would do. So we're going to keep going with that. What's your mother's name? He was struck by Solin's lack of response. The Jedi Master pressed further, his voice gentle but persistent. Does your mother know me? Solin hesitated for a moment, biting his lower lip before his demeanor shifted, and he simply stated that he wasn't supposed to talk about it. It was a secret. Secrets can be burdensome but necessary. Your mother must trust you a great deal. Obi-Wan was taken aback, his thoughts racing as he tried to piece together the puzzle of Solin's presence and his mother's connection to the upcoming meeting. Solin, you said your mother was a Jedi. The boy nodded, but his responses became very guarded. Responses had become very guarded. Where have you and your mother been, if not here at the temple? Solin's eyes darted around and his shoulders slumped in defensive posture. His excitement had gone and was replaced by an almost paranoia. I'm not supposed to talk about it. I'm going to pause. I'm going to point this out because sometimes we like a certain saying and we'll say it again and again and again and not even realize it. In one of my pieces, I think it was Have Dinner With Me, I did, what did I say that he did all the time? I kept saying the same thing again and again. What was it? Oh, it was something like quiet. I don't know. Whatever I did, I used the same two words. I can't remember what they were right off the top of my head at this moment, but I know that I did it in Have Dinner With Me because when I was revising it, I was like, what am I doing? I had like 20 of them and they weren't all in the same page. Sometimes they were, but I had like 50 in the story and I just overall thought that it was excessive. You've only done this, I believe, twice. I feel like back here he slumped his shoulders. We could go back and look for it, but I feel like I heard it or I read it. My brain processed it. If it's not there, then we can say that I've lost my mind. But I feel like I read it just a few minutes ago because I feel like he was slumping further. You will know. I'm going to speak directly to my author right now. You will know if I'm right or wrong. It's going to resonate with you if it is. And if it's not, I do apologize. And we're going to keep going. Solin's eyes darted around. His shoulders slumped into defensive posture. His excitement had gone and was replaced by an almost paranoia. I'm not supposed to talk about it. Obi-Wan nodded. I won't pry your story from you. Your mother obviously trusts you with her secrets, and it's admirable that you guard them so well. Perhaps your mother and I will meet someday, and we'll meet again. Solon's eyes shone a bit brighter, and he offered a small smile as Obi-Wan stood. I'm afraid I must leave you here, Solon, but it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Realizing his duty called him elsewhere, Solon nodded. May the Force be with you, Master Kenobi, the boy offered, surprising Obi-Wan once more with his profound farewell. And with you, Solon Kyle. Returning the sentiment, Obi-Wan couldn't help but feel a strange foreboding lingering in the air. As he rejoined Anakin at the entrance of the council chambers, the concerned look on his face did not go unnoticed by his former Padawan. Is everything all right? Anakin asked, a hint of worry coloring his voice. Obi-Wan rubbed his beard thoughtfully, his gaze fixed on the closed doors of the council chambers. I have no idea, but something tells me this meeting is about to bring unexpected revelations. As the pair entered the council chamber, their footsteps echoed softly in the vast space. The room was brightly lit, with beams of sunlight streaming through the high windows, casting elongated shadows on the polished floor. The atmosphere felt charged, a mixture of anticipation and tension hanging in the air. I'm just going to tell you right now, that my brain is screaming that this kid is Obi-Wan's kid, and he's going to find out by the end of the first chapter. Now, I don't know if that's just my writer. I don't know. I could be right. I might not be right, but my brain has been screaming that for about 4 paragraphs back now, so I'm just going to stop and say that. And we're going to keep going and find out if I'm right. Where did I... Okay, I'm tickled by this. Okay. As the pair entered the council chamber, their footsteps echoed softly in the vast space. The room was brightly lit, with beams of sunlight streaming through the high windows, casting elongated shadows on the polished floor. The atmosphere felt charged, a mixture of anticipation and tension hanging in the air. There was a figure already present, standing with her back towards Obi-Wan. Her long auburn hair cascaded down her back in a loose braid, swaying gently as she shifted her weight from one foot to another. She wore attire that deviated from the traditional Jedi robes, opting instead for snug-fitting clothing more akin to that of a smuggler or adventurer. The fabric clung to her form, suggesting a familiarity with warm climates and practicality rather than Jedi decorum. Her skin, kissed by the sun, carried an olive tone that spoke of time spent outdoors. I want to compliment the subtleties in this prose that paint a perfect visual for you. This is beautiful writing right here. I have this vision of this woman, almost standing like I kind of see her in light, and I can see the back of her and her braid. I can see her smuggler adventurer clothing. I've got a perfect visual of this girl, and very well done. Obi-Wan's gaze traveled down, and his eyes widened slightly as he caught sight of the lightsaber hilt securely strapped to her leg. It struck him as an unusual placement, different from the customary position on the belt, more befitting of a blaster. His curiosity deepened, and he found himself growing more intrigued by the woman before him. Sorry. So as I'm reading, when I goof up or I pause and I slow down, and it's because my beta brain is going at the same time as my reader brain, and I'm trying to screen for things while I'm reading to you guys. So if I sound strange at different times, that's what's happening. Her posture guarded, her body language communicating a wariness that kept her gaze averted from the others present, aside from the Grand Master Mace Windu. Obi-Wan's attention shifted to the ongoing conversation, noting the in-depth nature of the discussion. I was like, something doesn't make sense there. It was me. I misread that. I apologize. Obi-Wan's attention shifted to the ongoing conversation, noting the in-depth nature of the discussion. It was evident that the meeting had been called abruptly, with the council members already engaged in weighty discourse. The other masters began to take their seats, some appearing via hologram projections that materialized around the room. The atmosphere remained curious, yet not overtly unusual. The council chamber had witnessed countless deliberations, but this particular gathering held an air of hidden significance. Obi-Wan observed his fellow Jedi, noting the mix of expressions on their faces: concern, intrigue, contemplation, and a sense of duty. As Obi-Wan and Anakin settled into their respective seats, taking their place among the council members, the woman with the auburn hair maintained her enigmatic stance, her back still turned. Her identity remained shrouded in mystery, an enigma that intrigued Obi-Wan. He silently resolved to discover the reasons behind her presence and the secrets she held, all while fulfilling his duty to the council and the Jedi Order. And as a reader, I just want to note that when she turns around, he's going to lose his mind. The council chamber hummed with anticipation as Mace Windu, the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, took his place at the center of the room. The lighting grew slightly dimmer, focusing the attention on the council members gathered around. The atmosphere became weighted with a mix of curiosity, concern, and a deep sense of responsibility. Mace's deep voice resonated through the chamber as he began to speak, his tone both commanding and measured. I thank you all for your promptness in attending this meeting, fellow masters, he said, his eyes scanning each Jedi present. We find ourselves facing an unusual event that requires the combined wisdom and utmost delicacy in our approach. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker exchanged glances, their eyes meeting briefly before returning their attention to Mace. Anakin's gaze flickered toward the door, his expression betraying a hint of restlessness, while Obi-Wan responded with a subtle shrug, signaling his own curiosity and readiness for whatever lay ahead. I am going to pause and note that in the past few paragraphs, I've let it go because it's reading so beautifully that I just want to keep going. But I do want to point out I am noticing some very long sentences. When I use commas in a sentence and I end up having 3 of them, I have to really look hard and make sure that I can't make 2 sentences out of it. This is not me telling you to do that here. It did read beautifully. You can tell because I read it beautifully, but my brain is noting it. And so I am going to mention it to you for yourself in this paragraph. And there was a couple back ahead prior. And what I said to myself as to why I hadn't said anything up to this point is that if when I'm reading it, I am not stumbling over it, it's okay to me. Okay, that's my opinion. If I'm not stumbling over it, it's not reading awkwardly, the flow is good, I'm going to leave it. But I am observing it, and so I am noting that observation. That is all I'm doing. The circumstances we face pertain to the child of the Jedi Sentinel among us, Mace continued, his voice carrying a weight of importance. Okay, right there we have 2 periods. This Sentinel has entrusted us with a matter of great significance, and it is imperative that we exercise utmost discretion. The other council members leaned forward, their interest piqued as they absorbed Mace's words. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for future details. It became apparent that only Mace Windu and Yoda possessed prior knowledge of the unfolding events, leaving the rest of the council in a state of eager curiosity. Mace paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in before continuing. We must exercise caution as we navigate this delicate situation. His voice carried a note of gravitas. Our actions could have far-reaching consequences not only for the child involved, but also for the Jedi Order as a whole. We must proceed with wisdom and compassion. The council members leaned in, their expressions a mix of anticipation and concern. They were well aware that this was a pivotal moment, a test of their collective judgment and the values they hold dear. They yearned for more information, eager to understand the depth and significance of the Sentinel's request. In the midst of the charged atmosphere, Obi-Wan and Anakin exchanged another glance, silently communicating their readiness to face the unknown. They understood that the path ahead was shrouded in mystery and filled with challenges, yet their resolve remained unwavering. They were Jedi, after all, and it was their duty to safeguard the Order and protect those in need. The council chamber retained its solemn atmosphere as Mace Windu addressed the Sentinel, his voice measured and commanding. Is the boy with you, Sentinel? He inquired, his gaze steady and unwavering. The Sentinel nodded, his eyes briefly meeting Mace's face before turning to the doors. With a calm and authoritative tone, Mace beckoned the guards at the door. The large doors swung open, revealing Solon, who quickly came to stand by her side. The boy's face was alight with anticipation, his eyes shining with a youthful curiosity unburdened by the weight of the Jedi Council's presence. He cast a bright smile at Obi-Wan. I might put a period there. I wanted to read that as a separate sentence. Solon's mother gently placed her hand on his shoulder, guiding him forward until he stood before her, positioned where the Grand Master could better see him. Her touch carried both reassurance and a silent reminder for him to remain composed in the presence of the council. Mace turned his attention to Solon, his eyes studying the young boy. Welcome, Solon, he greeted warmly. Do you know where you are and who everyone in this room is? Solon's gaze moved from Mace to the council members, his face bright and eager. He nodded confidently. Yes, Grand Master, he replied. I'm at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and the people here are the members of the Jedi High Council. He proceeded to name a few individuals, including Mace Windu, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Kai Adimundi, Shakti, Kit Fisto, and Anakin with a sense of familiarity that impressed the council. Mace's amusement danced in his eyes as he continued his conversation with the boy. And do you know why you are here, Solon? He asked, leaning forward slightly. Solon glanced at his mother, seeking her guidance. She nodded subtly, encouraging him to speak. The young boy took a step forward and cleared his throat. I'm 10 years old, he began, his voice tinged with a mixture of excitement and seriousness. My purpose here is to begin my training as a Jedi. I'm going to pause. As beautifully as this is reading, I am just going to say what I tell everybody. And I'm only going to say this because it's how I was trained. It's reading beautifully, so I feel like you can completely leave it and ignore me. But I'm just going to say it because it's how I was trained, and I feel like I should tell you to watch for adverbs. I tend to screen my writing for them. Honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't change anything with I'm not talking about this one exclusively. I'm talking about them as a whole. I think for the purpose of fan fiction, they're perfectly fine, and I see plenty of them in published books. But I have been trained to try to read my writing without them and see if it reads better without them. That is not happening here. It's beautiful as it is, but I do want to just tell you because I have noticed a couple of them, and I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't just make you aware of them. So, especially as good as you are. So I'm just going to keep going. That was completely just a note. So, all right, so he's here. He's ready to become a Jedi. Soft murmurs rippled through the council members, their curiosity and interest piqued by the boy's candid response. Mace leaned back in his seat, a spark of intrigue glinting in his eyes. Tell me, Solon, he continued, his tone gentle. Can you feel the presence of the Force calling to you? Have you ever experienced moments where you've made things happen that you couldn't explain? A mischievous smile tugged at the corner of Solon's lips as he extended his hand, palm upturned. Behind Mace, an ornate ornament sat on a display, an object of intricate craftsmanship. As if responding to Solon's invitation, it shot across the room, propelled by an unseen force, and gently came to rest above Solon's outstretched hand. Gasps of astonishment escaped from the council members, their eyes widening as they witnessed the display of Solon's burgeoning connection to the Force. Mace Windu's lips curved into a small smile, a mix of admiration and anticipation. The young boy had caught their attention, his journey now intricately woven into the destiny of the Jedi Order. The council chamber fell into a hushed silence as Mace Windu turned his gaze towards Yoda, seeking the ancient Jedi Master's counsel. Yoda, his expression serene and wise, nodded in acknowledgement, indicating his understanding of the situation unfolding before them. Mace leaned forward in his seat, his eyes fixed on the sentinel. Has the boy's midi-chlorian count been measured? Midi-chlorian, sorry about that. He asked, his voice steady and purposeful. The sentinel met Mace's gaze, her own eyes steady and resolute. Yes, she replied. His midi-chlorian count stands at 16,000. A wave of astonishment rippled through the council chamber, spreading like wildfire. The Jedi Masters exchanged whispered conversations, their voices tinged with a mix of disbelief and awe. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi, a seasoned Jedi, found himself momentarily taken aback by the sheer magnitude of Solon's connection to the Force. Mace, regaining his composure, turned his attention back to Solon. Can you do anything else, young Solon? He inquired, his voice filled with a blend of curiosity and anticipation. As a reader, the back of my mind is thinking about the connection between him and his mother. So that's kind of been lingering in the back there. So I just thought I'd mention it. Solon nodded earnestly, his bright eyes filled with a sense of wonder. When I touch objects, Grandmaster, he began, his voice carrying a hint of excitement, I can see their histories. I can see who held them last, and they tell me their stories. I can even share what I see with others through touch. Solon's words hung in the air, permeating the council chamber with a sense of extraordinary possibility. I could share these visions with my mother, too. A murmur of astonishment swept through the council members once again, their gazes fixed upon the young boy and his mother. Solon's abilities were beyond anything they had encountered before. The sentinel nodded, confirming her own possession of the same gift, which had manifested after the child's birth. The depth and complexity of their bond stirred a sense of reverence among the council. Look at that! The thing I was thinking of popped up in the next paragraph. Solon continued, his voice calm and composed. I have memories, Master Windu, he continued, his words carrying a weight of ancient wisdom. Memories of my life before I was born, and memories of my mother carrying me in her womb as though they were my own. Oh, this is so beautiful. The council members listened intently, their eyes widening as they grasped the significance of Solon's words. The boundaries of time and existence seemed to blur in the face of his extraordinary connection to the Force. Sensing a trace of doubt among the council members, Solon extended his hand, allowing the object he held to make contact with his skin. "This artifact," he began, his voice filled with knowing certainty, "once belonged to a great Jedi Master who occupied the seat where Master Yoda now sits. He lived during the time of the Old Republic and passed the object to his Padawan, who tragically lost his life. It was lost until it was returned to the Council by an ambassador of Arcanus." Solon's words hung in the air, each one carrying the air of truth. The great master became one with the Force. The council members exchanged shocked glances, their disbelief transforming into resolute belief. Okay. There's nothing technically wrong with this. My brain catches on... They're not the same word, but my brain catches on it, and that could just be me personally. Disbelief and belief. I kind of want to pick a different word here. It's a beautiful, it's working. There's nothing wrong with it. But as a reader, my or possibly just the beta side of me is catching, because it's not a true word echo, but at the same time, they're so similar. It gave me pause, and we're just gonna leave it at that and keep going. Every word uttered by Solon resonated with undeniable authenticity, revealing the depth of his extraordinary abilities and the vastness of his connection to the Force. The Jedi Order stood at the precipice of a new era, guided by the presence of this enigmatic young boy and his mother, both touched by the Force in ways that defied conventional understanding. The council chamber was filled with a solemn atmosphere, heavy with the weight of Solon's revelations. Mace Windu, stunned into silence by the young boy's extraordinary abilities, found himself momentarily unable to form words. It was Yoda, the venerable Jedi Master, who broke the silence. Yoda's ancient voice resonated with a mixture of compassion and curiosity as he addressed the boy. "More to tell us you have, young Solon. Sense it, I do," he said, his wise eyes fixed upon the boy. "Upon your heart, will you share with the council that weighs?" Solon took a hesitant step backward, but his mother gently urged him forward once more, her touch conveying both support and encouragement. Taking a deep breath, Solon mustered his courage and spoke. "Sometimes, Master Yoda," he began, his voice tinged with vulnerability, "I have dreams of things that have been and some things that have not yet come to pass. They frighten me, and sometimes I wake up screaming and crying." He lowered his head slightly, as though ashamed. "I know I'm not supposed to be afraid, but I can't help it. I don't know how to make the visions stop. Sometimes I get sick when I see these things." I kind of think that possibly can be a period in the start of a new sentence. A sense of empathy washed over Obi-Wan Kenobi as he listened to the child's confession. He had been unaware of the depth of the young boy's experiences and the burdens he had already carried at such a tender age. Obi-Wan's heart went out to Solon, recognizing the tremendous weight that the boy had been shouldering in the shadows. Solon's shoulders slumped. Nope, I was not wrong. There it is. I'd do it too. I can't remember what mine was for the 50 times that I wrote it in my story, but I know that when I went back to, I'll be honest with you, I typically reread once a year about 5 to 7 of my my favorite stories that I've written. And when I reread them, sometimes I just cringe, but the story is so good. It's what I wrote the story I wanted to read. And so I still enjoy them. And once a year, I'll read just about every single one of my pieces, including my role play pieces, because those are some of my favorites. Actually, they are my favorites. And but I go back and I catch myself doing something multiple times in the same piece. In one of them, I got happy with the word and I started my sentences with and that's okay sometimes, but I was doing it all over the place. And I cringe now. I had long run-on sentences. I started sentences with the word and I'm just like, oh, what was I doing? But I guess we just learn, but I guess I'm not wrong. So it did pop up again. I feel like that might be the third time. We're going to keep going. Solon's shoulders slumped, his gaze now fixed upon the ground as if expecting reprimand. He took another step back, seeking solace in the presence of his mother, who instinctively rested her hands on his shoulders, offering a comforting embrace. 1, 2, 3 commas, but it still reads well. Yoda approached Solon, his ancient eyes filled with wisdom and compassion. I'm going to pause. Did we have wisdom and compassion? We have a lot of wisdom and compassion. Of course, these are Jedis, and there's a lot of wisdom and compassion. Um, I'm, I'm just going to note that I'm feeling like we have a lot of wisdom and compassion. And yeah, I'm just going to note it, and we're going to keep going. Yoda approached Solon, his ancient eyes filled with wisdom and compassion. Feel ashamed for feeling fear do not, a heavy burden visions of the future are. An absence of courage your fear is not, he imparted. Solon looked up, his gaze meeting Yoda's countenance. The burden of shame began to ease from his young shoulders as he absorbed Yoda's words of wisdom. A glimmer of hope flickered in his eyes, as if a weight had been lifted from his fragile spirit. We have more wisdom. When you have Jedis and you've got lots of wisdom and compassion, I might, if I was working in your fandom, have a little list beside me of, honestly, because of that, I would probably have you've got a thesaurus, but I keep a notebook. I don't know about you, but I keep a notebook, and sometimes I keep it handy just in case I need to scribble something down for quick reference. I also use Pinterest for some of these. They have little, like a little, it'll have a pin of just straight to the point without having to read through a blog or something. It'll have straight to the point, a quick reference of things such as when you're looking for another word for something. But then again, you always have the good old thesaurus. I think what I might do if I was writing in this fandom is have specifically, because they have so much wisdom and compassion, the words that I know that I would use repetitively as they do justice to a Jedi, I would have a little list of other words that mean the same thing, and I might pick from them if I was being picky. But this is very, very good. But it's my job to be picky for you. So I'm just making an observation, and we're going to keep going. A glimmer of hope flickered in his eyes, as if a weight had been lifted from his fragile spirit. The council members, previously silent witnesses to this intimate exchange, now regarded Solon with newfound understanding. The room itself seemed to radiate a sense of compassion and acceptance. Solon, though still young and vulnerable, had taken a courageous step in revealing his fears and doubts. In the presence of Yoda's wisdom, the young boy's journey toward embracing his own strength and resilience had just begun. I'm just going to highlight it for you and keep going. The council chamber remained filled with a mix of curiosity and concern as everyone absorbed the weighty revelations brought forth by Solon. Anakin Skywalker, his gaze fixed intently on the young boy, felt a deep connection to him, his own curiosity and investment growing with each passing moment. Yoda had imparted his wisdom, settled back into the seat, his gaze shifting between Solon and his mother. Mace Windu, the steady voice of authority, addressed Solon once more, his tone gentle yet inquisitive. "Are you afraid of this room or the people within it, young Solon?" he asked, his eyes showing genuine concern. I'm going to pause. Okay. I'm not really sure if I change it or not. But I am going to note for you. There's a lot of people in this room, so I may leave it just for the fact that there's a lot of people in this room, and you're trying to be very clear who is speaking to who, and you're doing an excellent job of that. One of the things that I have caught myself doing, and I didn't believe this. So I can't remember where I read it. There was I have tons. I've read so many references and done so many studying on things when I'm trying to clean up my own work, that one of the things I read was that we use our characters' names in sentences when they're speaking. We use them a lot, but in reality, we wouldn't actually do that. Now, Jedi are very formal, so I can see them doing this. And the other thing we have is that you're being very clear about who's speaking. And I'm not talking about just this one sentence. I'm saying as a whole, when you're reading your dialogue, ask yourself if you're using the character's name too much, or if you have to. Solon took a moment to gather his thoughts, his small hand tightly grasping his mother's for comfort. No, sir, he replied honestly. I'm not afraid of this room or the people. I'm only afraid for my mother. The attention of the council now shifted to Solon's mother, the sentinel. She stood there, her posture strong and unwavering, her gaze fixed on her son with a mix of protective love and determination. The council members regarded her with a renewed sense of interest, recognizing the gravity of her situation. Mace, his voice carrying a sense of reassurance, spoke directly to Solon. The council does not punish Jedi for having children, he explained. However, there are rules in place for a reason, but our greatest concern is for your well-being, young Solon. Solon's gaze narrowed slightly, suspicion flickering in his eyes. You promise? He asked, his voice tinged with a hint of caution. I'm wondering if we've used that a couple times. It's a long chapter, so you're gonna have some repetition. Typically, if it was a shorter chapter, I would tell you to watch out for any repetition, like the shoulder slumping. I stand by that one, but I'm not really sure because this is so long and it's reading so well. I think we're just gonna keep going. It might be because we're getting later into the chapter that we're starting to see some word repetition, or that we've used it maybe more than twice. I'm gonna leave it and just I noted that I've noted here that I thought about it and that I've given it some thought, and maybe I'm not completely decided. We're gonna keep going. Mace met Solon's gaze with empathy and sincerity. I promise, young one, he affirmed, his voice carrying the weight of his authority. We are here to guide and protect you. Another master, his curiosity piqued, interjected with a question. And what about the identity of the boy's father? He asked, directing his inquiry to Mace. Mace's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing as he turned his attention toward Solon's mother. It was a question that lingered in the air, drawing the focus toward the woman who had silently stood beside her son throughout the council's deliberations. Mace's voice was measured as he asked Solon, Do you know who your father is? Solon's gaze dropped to the ground, a tinge of sadness flickering across his young face. No, he confessed, his voice carrying a mix of curiosity and longing. The council members... I'm going to pause and have a reader thought here. He says he doesn't know who his father is, but he can touch an object and know the history of it. I'm just going to put that out there as a reader thought, and we're going to keep going. The council members exchanged knowing glances, their attention now firmly fixed on Solon's mother. The woman stood there, her demeanor revealing a complex blend of strength, determination, and a hidden past that held the answers to Solon's lineage. The council was poised to uncover a truth that could shape the young boy's destiny within the Jedi Order. We may have lots of determination. Again, when we're working with Jedi, we've got certain characteristic traits that are very strong and they're going to be repetitive, and it could be challenging to find other words for those. But as it, I guess being in the know, becoming aware of that might be helpful to you. I hope it is. And we'll keep going. The chamber grew increasingly tense as Mace Windu, his voice unwavering, addressed the sentinel, requesting the identity of Solon's father. The atmosphere in the room shifted as if holding its breath, as all eyes focused on the woman standing beside her son. There was a hint of defensiveness in her posture, barely perceptible to those not paying close attention, but she concealed it well. The sentinel met Mace's gaze, her expression guarded yet resolute. I know who his father is, she replied, her voice carrying a note of conviction, and he is alive and well. Solon turned his gaze towards his mother, his curiosity and trepidation evident in his young eyes. The weight of the moment hung in the air as Mace addressed the sentinel once more, explaining the council's concerns about secrecy and the need for transparency. He tactfully asked her to reveal the identity of Solon's father before the council. The sentinel hesitated, her gaze flickering over her shoulder briefly, as if seeking an escape. She then spoke, her voice laced with hesitation. I'd hoped for the opportunity to tell the father in person first, she admitted, her words revealing a hint of vulnerability. Mace's tone remained firm as he pressed further, his questions becoming more direct. I'm going to pause and have a reader thought that the father's in the room. We're going to keep going. Is the father of ill repute or a criminal? He inquired, of his voice tinged with caution. We've definitely got some tinging going on. The defensive edge in the sentinel's voice became more pronounced as she quickly retorted, "Not a chance." The tension in the room escalated, the council members keenly attuned to the standoff between Mace and the sentinel. Mace refused to yield, his determination evident. He insisted on the revelation of Solon's father's identity before the council. The sentinel, realizing her tactics were failing, changed her approach, requesting that she be allowed to tell her son in private, or at least have him leave the room before revealing the truth. Mace remained silent, his patience waning, as he grew tired of the sentinel's attempts to delay a straightforward answer. Mace's voice grew firmer as he stated, "You've had 10 years to tell Solon his father's identity, and the time for secrets is over." The sentinel appeared defeated, her gaze shifting toward her son. She brushed his hair out of his face, giving him a sympathetic look and squeezing his hand, conveying an unspoken reassurance amid the uncertainty. Okay, I'm going to pause on this sentence. She brushed his hair out of his face, giving him a sympathetic look and squeezing, I think this might have been squeezed his hand, conveying an unspoken reassurance amidst the uncertainty. Yeah, okay. Solon, his eyes filled with apprehension and confusion, sensed the change in his mother's demeanor and grew visibly nervous. With a frustrated sigh, the sentinel finally spoke, her voice laden with a sense of resignation. "Solon Cal," she began, her gaze fixed on her son before shifting to meet Mace's gaze directly, "is the son of Master Obi-Wan Kenobi." I knew that. This is adorable. I love it. It's great. The build is great. It reads beautifully. I'm honored. Thank you so much. I just want to stand up and applaud this stunning piece of work. And this is only the first chapter. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm going to be offended for you. 46 kudos is ridiculous, especially with 2,100 hits. What are our readers doing? Honestly. And 11 comments. Come on, guys. I'm going to tell everybody, you guys need to be reading these stories. They're beautiful. There's some insanely talented people in our fanfic world, and we are so lucky to have them. So, thank you so much for letting me read chapter 1 of this story. And guys, I'll see you next time on Mystery Red Reads.